Well, dear students, let us discuss another topic from the phylum Coelenterata, that is the coral and coral reefs. Now, the picture that I have shown you over here in this slide, these are the corals. Basically, the corals are the animals belonging to phylum Coelenterata. Now, corals may be solitary living coelentrates or may be colonial living coelentrates. They may be colonial polypoid. I have already shown you that the coelentrates may have the two basic body organizations or the body forms, either medusoid or polypoid. They may be polypoid, uh, living in skeleton of calcium carbonate. So calcium carbonate is secreted by themselves outside their body. They live inside this skeleton, and they may be they are coelentrates, either solitary, colonial, or colonial polypoids. So basically, what happens when the coelentrates, uh, particularly the polypoids, because the polypoids are sedentary, they remain attached with the substratum. They don't move from one place to other. They Once they attach with the substratum, they grow continuously in size by budding of polyps. As we have already discussed in coelentrates, that there is a common feature of asexual reproduction by means of budding and continuously giving new buds and thereby making the extension of the body. They form extensive mass, which is called as coral reefs. Vaughan 1978 defined a coral reef as a ridge or a mound of limestone. Why mound of limestone or ridge of limestone? Because the corals, they have the exoskeleton in the form of calcium carbonate. So once they form a ridge or stone by continuously growing, as discussed in the previous comment, they form the stone which may be made up of the calcium carbonate, the upper surface of which is near the surface of sea. So the ridge or the mound may have a depth in the sea, deep in the sea, but upper surface of which may be near the surface of the sea. And the coral reefs are chiefly found by the corals. Coral means the coelentrates, the animals. Now, most of the corals belongs to class Anthozoa or Tubipora, Alcyonium, Helicopora, Gorgonia, Astrea, Madrepora, Fungia. These are the some very good examples of Anthozoa, which are the corals. Few other from class Hydrozoa that may contribute in the formation of coral reefs are Villipora, Mellipora, again same, and the Stylaster. Among other Anthozoan, the hexacorallian like Fungia, the Madrepora, the Astrea, they are collectively called as stony or true corals and are the principal builder of coral reefs. So that's why, because they contribute very much in the building of coral reefs, so they are called the true corals. Stony corals belongs to order Madreporaria. Their order is Madreporaria. Let us see distribution and conditions of coral reefs formation. So basically, the coral reefs uh, grow best at a depth of 30 meters or less and normally in warm water about 20 degrees Celsius. So within the ocean, along the seashore, they are formed at the depth of not more than 30 meters. Their good growth is above 30 meters depth and their temperature is 20 degrees Celsius. If the temperature is below 20 degrees Celsius, corals may not grow into coral reefs. They also do not grow in shaded areas and completely darkness area. That is why when the depth goes beyond 30 meters, darkness increases, shade increases, and they do not grow. Now, corals over the millions of years have built a thick stratum of Earth's crust because they continuously grow year after year, uh, and they thereby deposit a layer of calcium carbonate on the Earth's crust, and there they form the new stratum of the Earth crust, you can say. They add up the Earth's crust by deposition and by continuously growing. They are restricted to the Indo-Pacific, the Central Western Pacific, and Caribbean regions. These are the various sea you might have seen in the globe where they are restricted. And why they are restricted to these regions? Because here the temperature is optimum for their growth. I'm giving you some example. The Great Barrier Reef that you might have seen along the Australia. This is the Great Barrier Reef. This one is present in the Indo-Pacific region. This is the Indo-Pacific region of the ocean. Uh, this is an example of a coral reef. Similarly, among other good examples, Bahama Islands are formed by the coral reefs. If you remember, this is the USA, and these are the islands called the Bahamas Islands. This is little. This is the position where the Bahamas Island are present. Then this is little enlarged photograph showing the Bahamas Island, and still more enlarged, where you can say that these are the islands on which the human habitation is there. Buildings are constructed, and whole of these islands are made up of coral reefs. So you can imagine how the coelacanths, after getting attached with the substratum, continuously growing year after year, after million of years, they have developed into the island form, and in these islands, now the uh, human are inhabiting these islands. Similarly, the Fiji island is also there. This is the China, this is the USA, and in this South Pacific Ocean, you can see the Fiji islands. This is the enlarged diagram of the Fiji island where you can see human habitation along with the forest. All of this island is formed by the corals, by continuous proliferation of the corals and deposition of calcium carbonate year after year. So a rock-like structure or mound-like structure, a reef is formed over which the human habitation in the forest has grown now. Similarly, the Bermuda is a coral island. You can see this is the position of the Bermuda coral island. This is the Bermuda coral island, where even the houses are made from these blocks made up of the corals. Around India, the coral reefs are present in the uh, Port Okha and Dwarka. Where they are located? They are located in the Gulf of Kutch here. Then uh, Rameshwaram is again the island of Rameshwaram. They are again the port of Rameshwaram. They are again made up of the coral reefs. Here, these islands. Similarly, uh, in the Bay of Bengal, you can see the the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. They are again made from the corals, and then you can see the Lakshadweep also on this side. Here again in the Arabian Sea, the Lakshadweep islands are again made up of the corals. So corals are the animals, and once they uh, grow to such a large extent that an island is formed, then it is called coral reef or coral mound. Now let us discuss what are the types of the coral reefs. So how the corals are formed, accordingly they have different types. Say for example, this is one position in which you can see this is the island, or you can say this is the island. On the shore of the island, you can see corals have grown over the years. Okay, and because when they start growing from below, they have reached up to this position. Now you always remember and must acknowledge it that the just immediate at the seashore at the uh, shore of the sea near the island, the human activity is much more where they cannot grow. As a result, they slightly get away from the main island, and they again emerge out of the ocean in a big reef, in a manner of big reef or mound, and then this type of reef is called as, if reef is formed like this, it is called fringing reef. Now in fringing reef, if you can see, the 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 water channel between the island and the fringing reef is very narrow. It is so narrow that it is not navigable. It is shallow also. Only 50 to 100 meters broad water channel in the form of a lagoon may be present. Now, then you have the second type of the reef called the barrier reef. Now, the major difference between this is that the lagoon is wider enough and deeper enough. It may be 10 miles in width, okay, and 10 to 15 fathoms deep. Fathom is a unit for measuring the depth of the water, and it is navigable because its depth and width is large enough. Okay, now then uh, the Great Barrier Reef that I have shown you along with the Australia in previous slides also is a good example of barrier reef. Then the third type is the atoll. What happens if there is no island inside? So only the reefs are present, then the whole lagoon is present. Reefs are encircling the lagoon. These reefs may be continuous or may be broken in between, thus making a continuous connection with the rest of the ocean. This is called atoll reef. Now the question comes, how the atoll reef is formed, because we have shown over here that the corals start growing after getting attached with the substratum of the island. Now, how they have developed over here? It is because of the reason we shall discuss in the later also. It is basically the island was present previously, but the island has submerged deep in the water later on, due to which no island can be seen over there, and whole of the area is lagoon. No, the example of atoll the atoll coral reef is the Bikini atoll. You can see this is the Asia and Japan. Near the Japan, you can see just below it, Bikini atoll is there. Bikini atoll is having this type of feature. These islands are formed of the coral reefs in the, so this is the example of atoll reef where no island is present inside it because the island has submerged later on. As far as the formation of coral reefs are concerned, coral reefs have vertical thickness because they start growing upward, so they have vertical thickness. Though reef building coral live only up to depth of 50 meters. Earlier I have shown you that they grow best at the depth of 30 meters, but no, it is 50 meters, and even some coral reefs are even more deep. Now, how they have achieved such a great depth, it shall be explained later on. by considering the two theories. Number one, Darwin's subsistence theory and the Daly's glacial control theory. Both of these theories basically explain how the coral reefs are formed and how did this depth, even more than 50 sometimes, is achieved by the coral reefs. So Darwin's subsistence theory explains that earlier it was a fringing reef which was formed. That is, this was the island. On the shore of the island, you can see that the corals have grown and they have lagoon in between them. Once the corals have grown to such an extent, the reef has emerged up to the surface of water, even out of the surface of the water, then uh, the water channel may remain between the island and the fringing reef. And this I have already explained you that this is the fringing reef. Later on, what happens that if the uh, shore of this island subside inside the water further, what will happen? The area of the lagoon will get increased. Okay, so again, let if whole of the island get subside into the water, then the lagoon will increase to such an extent that no island may be seen between the encircling coral reefs. So this is how Darwin's subsistence theory explains that first it is the subsistence of the shore of the island inside the water, thereby increasing and building it to the barrier reef, and later on whole of the island may get subsidized, subside inside the water, and it forms the atoll reef. This is how Darwin's subsistence theory explains that how different reefs are formed. Now, Delhi's glacial control theory explains that when there was a lost glacial period, most of the water of the oceans was present in the form of the ice caps on the mountains. As a result, the seashore or the level of the sea gone below. And when it has gone below enough, then what has happened that the surface which was exposed earlier, on that surface coral starts their depositions and growing over the year. Later on, as the temperature increased, the ice melted and the level of the sea risen year after year. As a result, the uh, along with this, there was the continuous growth of the corals. As a result, corals has also risen up to the level where the sea is present at present point of time. It is because of this reason that the depth has increased to such an extent that though the corals cannot grow well beyond 30 meters, but you can see the corals are present below the 30 meters because earlier that very surface was exposed. Later on, that very surface has uh, submerged into the water, uh, has subsided into the water because of the rising level of the sea owing to the melting of the ice caps. Now, so it means that, and there is a rate that the corals grow at the rate of 5 mm to 20 centimeter per year. Thus, 50 meters deep reef could be formed in not less than 8,000 years. So you can imagine if you are finding a coral reef of 50 meters deep, it means 8,000 years have gone in building it. And all the known reefs that are present, that we have discussed, that we have seen in the globe also, they are built 30,000 years ago. They have started their building 30,000 years, or you can say that they are 30,000 years old. If you made a boring into the coral reefs, you may find that you may find a platform on which they were rested when the surface was exposed. That very surface was exposed. Okay, but sometimes you may see that The boring reefs had showed that there is no underlying platform of the land. It is because it was present earlier, but because of the subsidence of the island, no, you may not find the platform of the earth or the substratum on which the coral reefs were grown earlier. Now, coming to the economic importance of the coral reefs are highly favorable sites for the accumulation of petroleum deposits. You might have learned many times that the petroleum is extracted from the ocean because it is extracted by boring the coral reefs because coral reefs are the best site for the deposition of the petroleum. Coral reefs are habitats of plants and animals and human beings as well because you have seen that human beings too have inhabited many islands which were formed by the coral reefs which are formed by the corals, and once they are the coral reefs are there, then there are so many plants are all there, so many animals are there, so they are providing habitat to them also. They too have the decorative value, like this corallium rubrum is considered to be precious stone in India and China, and it is very auspicious as well. Red coral, again, the rubrum is also called as red coral, and the argan pipe are used in some medicines also for making medicines in India also. So they have the medicinal value as well. Chunk of the coral skeleton belonging to species Poriter are used as building material. So building material is also extracted from it. Then, coral skeletons serve as a raw material for formation and preparation of lime, mortar, and cement because of their calcium carbonate and magnesium carbonate content. Because these are the things which are found from the calcium carbonate and the magnesium carbonate. There is a huge deposition of the calcium carbonate in the corals, so they are the best source to get these items. They also act as a natural barrier against the sea erosion because they always grow on the side of the on the seashore on the shore side of the island. So they thereby protect the erosion of the soil from the mainland of the island or the mainland as well. They are the good nursery ground for commercially important fishes. You can see over here like so many fishes. You can see they are the nursery ground means that the fishes they lays their egg there. They they even rear their fingerlings over there because they are the protected sites where cannot every predator cannot prey upon them. Reef fishes varieties are more colorful than others, and moreover, the fishes that lives over there, they are very colorful. They add up the aesthetic value into the uh, into the nature of the human as well. Thanks. This is all about the coral reefs, types of the coral reefs, and how they are formed.